record. Am I recording, Monica?
You got it.
Flaps up. Flight
Yep.
attendants, prepare for takeoff.
There you go. We're ready.
That's how many times I have flown in my life.
No, we have to strap in is what we need to do.
Oh yeah, buckle up. Yeah.
Yep,
Flaps up. Okay. Well, welcome everyone. This is Joseph Van Tel from Adjuvant Protocols for Healing. I'd like to welcome you to the webinar today, which is Thursday, November the 19th. As you know, I primarily teach the Heart Sound Recorder now on Tuesdays, and then have devoted my Thursday webinars to my new book, which you all should have if you're going to be on these, because you need to make notes, because definitely I will say things that out of the deep crevices of my subconscious clinical pearls that may come up. So you may want to write those down. Today, we're going to look at, of course, you're probably worn out with listening to lectures on colds, flu, and viruses, but I wanted to share my perspective, which is similar to others, and go through this in depth. So, of course, with the pandemic raging right now, and not in some states, but in other states, yes. So my daughter and son-in-law, he's a residency at a major hospital in Chicago, and she's a NICU nurse in Chicago. And I can tell you, it is raging in some states. So let's look at that, but let's start with colds and flu first. And of course, we want to give you the most important products that we feel are significant. So I do want to read this quote, which was out of Scientific American that I put in this book. I put in my book. 1/3 of people who have died from flu-related causes expire because the virus overwhelms the immune system. Another 1/3 die from the immune response to secondary bacterial infections, usually in the lungs. And the remaining 1/3 perish due to the failure of one or more other organs. So it's very important that we, as we face this and look at this, that we have the perspective that unless our clients, unless people as a whole are healthy, and I'm going to read you some quotes from Dr. Lee, who said this 70 years ago, 60 years ago. They risk that possibility of not just dying from the actual virus itself, but extenuating predisposed conditions that are in their body, all caused by malnutrition, all relate to this. And so let's get into this. And as you can see with my book, colds, flu, the products are always listed in an order of importance. So, and the same with viruses. Now, you're going to see an overlap between what is primary for colds and flu and what is primary for viruses. And it's always calcium lactate, Cataplex C, Cataplex F. Then you can broaden out from there. So, and I will share that broader scope of understanding today, and different of teachers and practitioners, their opinion about what is most important. So Monica put in the chat box, and of course, as always, if you can't extract it from the chat box, just shoot me an email and we'll send this on to you. Years ago, I did a winter wellness newsletter, and these are some action steps. And you can copy this newsletter. You can give it to any of your clients that you want. You can use it for yourself. These were 10 things that I found to be most important with my clients, my family, and my life. Not only through colds and flu and viruses, but through cancer and other things. So cancer in my case. So I'm not going to read all of this. This is for you to look at. You don't have to use all of these, but these certainly are 10 really helpful lifestyle actions. And clients always love this, you know, as you've enjoyed, I assume, and many of you express that, these various things that I've written out, so will your clients. So this is where you should have a newsletter, and I mean a website that you put these things on. It reminds your clients to come back in and see you. So this is part of the newsletter, but, and I'm gonna go back to this. I just wanted to go through this. This has a children's winter wellness section, and it has an herbal winter wellness section as well. So, but let's get into the actual protocol. And I'm going to zip through these various studies, and with great thanks as always to Mark Anderson, my mentor and friend and colleague, who we constantly learned from, and his amazing ability to research and bring us these studies. Because there's a tendency not to place significance where it's needed, and to place significance where it isn't needed. So the first, of course, is calcium. And you've heard me say it many times. What do you do for this? What do you do for that? Calcium, calcium, calcium. You cannot take too much ionizable calcium. Now, usually we recommend about a tablespoon a day, which is 800 milligrams, and calcium lactate is 5-to-1 ratio, as in your blood, to calcium and magnesium. It's not from dairy sources. It is from a fermented process using sugar beets. So it is not synthetically made. It is naturally made from nature. And it's about the largest selling product. And so it's most important all year round, but especially in the winter months. And as I go through these, you're going to see why, how it relates. Now, this, of course, is an article that, and you can look these up and go deeper if you want to read into it. We're just giving you the bullets out of it. The fact that activated macrophages showed a more dramatic response, these are your white blood cells, suggested that calcium spikes during phagocytosis mediate or regulate biochemical mechanisms for microbial activities. And so when you realize that calcium is what they say, the activator to the white blood cells in particular, you must have the intelligence of how the immune system works in place. You can have an army of white blood cells, but if you don't have the sergeants, the captains, the kernels, to give the direction, to activate the army, then the army is impotent. And that's the significance of calcium. And not other calciums. It requires that calcium, as in calcium lactate, be able to activate the phagocytosis process. So that's why we call it ionizable. The form of calcium must be able to be ionized. It must be able to activate the immune response. Here's another one. Oh, here's, this is from Dr. Lee, because I wanted to get right into how Lee spoke and how he taught about calcium. I want to bring this point out also. Any child that lacks soluble calcium, calcium bicarbonate, not calcium carbonate, it has to be ionized, as Mark wrote in here, added to this. Most of the calciums on the market are calcium carbonate. It takes too many processes to make it into bicarbonate, if it does at all. So that is the end product usable for immune triggering. And listen, I haven't mastered many things in my life, but I mastered how to get calcium into children. My children, my family's children, and my grandchildren. I have disguised it in peanut butter. I've disguised it in yogurt. I've disguised it in shakes. They never knew they were getting it, but they were getting a lot of it. So this ionized form of calcium is, if a child lacks this, they are going to be susceptible to any disease that involves fever. Any condition. In fact, he or she will develop a fever from the calcium deficiency alone in many cases. And Mark was talking about this on his call. And when the calcium gets deficient, where does the body get it from? When you raise a temperature, your white blood cells, for every degree your temperature goes up, do you know that your white blood cells almost double? There's the army. But you need the calcium to activate that army, to make sure that the calcium itself, that attack is going to be the best it can be. So that activation must take place. And what the body does, remember, there's only 1% of calcium is in your blood, only 1%. It's a fragile amount. And if people do not get it from food, and forget about dairy, unless it's raw dairy, forget it. It's altered. It's no longer calcium bicarbonate. It's been changed chemically by heating. So then the body, because you would die without that 1% in your bloodstream for many reasons. And so what does the body do? It robs it from the bones. It's easy for the body to take it from the bones and put it into the blood, but it's very difficult to get calcium bicarbonate to change to put into your bones. Otherwise, there would be no osteoporosis. because that is, Lee explained at one point, that chemical bond is just too tight. So you can't. It can go from the bones to the blood, blood to the bones. That's why you need bone calcium, but we're not going to get into that. I already gave that lecture to you a couple weeks ago. Whenever you've got a youngster that's running a temperature, and maybe it's just a degree or two above normal and wanders up and down, it wanders up and down, everyone, because the body is now taking it out of the bones. And what do we say when we get sick or someone gets sick? Oh, if I feel like my bones are aching, every muscle in my body is aching. Yes. You know why? Because it's not getting ionizable calcium. And so how vital is this? And that wandering temperature. And I have to say, as far as I can remember, you could check with my former wife. She's a good friend of mine. She's a nurse. I don't ever remember our children spiking big fevers and staying up there ever, because I kept the calcium lactate going in. Whether it's the infant or anybody else, by the way, we'll get to children down the road here with my book. There's nothing better than calcium lactate for teething children. Now, if they're just breastfeeding, then load the mother with it. They'll get it. Or anybody else. It's calcium deficiency. It's strange that these are also associated with viral diseases and bacterial diseases that cause fever. But in the child, it's almost always calcium deficiency. Amen. The youngster that's got plenty of diffusible calcium in his body fluids is practically immune to children's disease. Now there is a statement of truth. Lee said a lot in a few words. And I'm just going to move this so I can read it. I've often mentioned barley water as a help in that. That's one of the old time remedies that when we were kids, we had to depend on. More on those things than today, because many of us grew out in the farms and ranches where a doctor was miles away. In any kind of an emergency, he couldn't usually get there until the emergency was over. Now, in my book, I have barley water in the appendix, and it is, I wrote all of these down. Where did I put it here? Oh, maybe I didn't write that one down. Well, you can look that up in the back of the book. Somebody can get the page. I thought I wrote that down. Okay. Barley water in the old days was one of the weapons that was found to take care of most everything that was wrong with a youngster. When a baby's teeth are erupting, his body fluids become completely deficient in calcium. Their teeth are picking up the calcium so fast that there's nothing left for the soft tissue, for his muscles, their skin, their hair, their nails, their heart, and he becomes quite distressed.
Joseph,
Yes.
page 398.
398. Thank you so much.
398, it's in the chat.
Okay. Barley water. Now, I will do this now as we get deeper into winter, but I make this up and drink it. And remember, this distressed in children, this being distressed has to do with their heart. If the heart does not have enough calcium bicarbonate, the heart will get tired. The person will get tired and stressed. And this is why a lot of people when they get to that point, and especially children, if a child is crying all the time, think of giving them calcium. You will write to me and say, Joe, I can't believe that. That is amazing. I gave them a little calcium lactate, and even teenagers, believe me, they get more deficient in calcium than anyone because their bones are developing, their muscles, they're growing at such a rate, never mind a small child. A little calcium lactate and barley water, and all the symptoms melt away in a matter of a few hours or almost minutes. Very true. Prove me wrong. You won't, you'll see. So what else did Mark give us here? These different references. During fevers, infection. Now, this is from the textbook of physiology. Mosby's. Infection, fevers, acute inflammation, etc. In order for the white blood cells to function efficiently, ionized calcium must be abundantly available. There it is. When the blood ionized calcium falls below 50%, you don't have to get lower than 50% and you're going to start feeling the side effects. Febrile seizures can be experienced. There it is. Here it is, what I said earlier, that 5-to-1 ratio. And here's another one. And this beautiful product, the most inexpensive calcium product I would bet in the world. In the world. Standard doesn't charge much for it. What else? The purpose of this study was to examine the performance and independence of ionized calcium in prediction of all-cause day 30 mortality, people dying within 30 days among critically ill patients. Ionized hypocalcemia is common among critically ill adults. There it is again. And is associated with death. Harvard, here it is. Ionized calcium is commonly in severely ill children. Patients with ionized hypocalcemia have a higher mortality rate than those with non-calcium. However, because the former are more severely ill, no causality is apparent. Okay. Functional, oh, this is why I was going to take this one out because I'm just repeating what they found in these different studies. But listen to this. This is a pearl that I was impressed with. Functional hypoparathyroidism may occur in critically ill children. Write this down, everyone. Write this down. This is, and I misspoke last week. I said it's the product that support, or 2 weeks ago when I did the thyroid lecture, the product that supports the parathyroids is not Paraplex. It is Calma Plus. So there's another product. Write it in your notes section. If you've got children, you say, Joe, we're giving them the calcium. It could be that there is a poor functioning parathyroid glands. Great pearl. I did not even notice that pearl until I reread this for like the 10th time this morning, because I've seen these PowerPoints that Mark has shared with us. Hypocalcemia has been documented in critically ill patients, including those with sepsis and shock. One of the things that's happening with COVID-19 right now is blood toxicity, sepsis, blood infections. I have 2 friends that they supposedly did not have COVID, but they ended up with, I should say, a friend and then her friend who just died from it, ended up with blood sepsis. Was it triggered by the virus? Who knows? You know, we can't blame everything on COVID-19. But nevertheless, when people get sick in the winter without that calcium lactate, In hypocalcemic patients, the corrected calcium levels have been found to be inversely correlated with day or disease, and attained a neither on day 6 and 8 of bacteria. In other words, I think what they're saying, if as the bacterial infection continues, colds, flu are mainly bacterial infections most of the time. We'll get to viruses in a second. The calcium does not even get depleted till sometimes a week later if a person eats well and has enough in their reserves. It's lower in males than in female subjects. Hypocalcemia patients had a significantly higher maximal temperature than normocalcemic ones. But hypocalcemia is unrelated to serum levels of albumin and creatine. Okay, so here's another one, American Journal of Medicine. Why did I want to read this one to you? I wanted to discuss this. Total and ionized calcium levels were prospectively evaluated upon admission for all patients over a 3-month interval. High proportion of patients, the average of 70%, 3/4 of the people had low levels of both total and ionized calcium. What is this plague? This plague is not a virus. This plague is calcium deficiency. That's what's going on to a very high degree. And here's another one from Harvard Medical School. We conclude the following: ionized hypocalcemia is commonly severely ill children. Patients with ionizable have a higher mortality rate. People survive. You know, you got someone in the hospital, get calcium lactate into them, sneak it in, sneak the powder in, get it into their food. And of course, tuberculosis, and I didn't know this until Mark taught it to us. Tuberculosis has killed. This bacterial infection usually affects the lungs. You can have tubercular kidneys. Dr. Lee talked about that. Tubercular adrenals. Bacterial infection has killed more people than any other condition, any other disease, any other pathogen in history. Think of it. And here it is, again, helping with that mycobacteria. So I wanted to go through all of those because I cannot express this to you deeply enough, that if you're not taking calcium lactate every day, you're walking a fine line in your health and in your client's health. Now, the partner to this, what assures, it's fine to have calcium, ionizable calcium in the blood, but where does it need to be? In the case of COVID-19, it needs to be primarily in the lungs. And a lot of people that have, they're called long haulers. I don't know if you've heard this term. And I have two or three people that I know that are long haulers that have had it. They cannot recover. Why? Because primarily their calcium levels, because people aren't conscious of this. They don't understand. Oh, where's my ionizable, unless you teach them. Where's my ionizable calcium? I gotta have that. They have this remnant of infection that never goes away. They're weak. They have fevers at night. Not bad enough to go back to the hospital, or to go to bed. And they do go to bed a lot, because when you get deficient, if that calcium is not sent, if it's not delivered into the heart, you're tired. If that calcium is not sent into the lungs, the infection continues, or anywhere else in the body. And here is the gift of Cataplex F. Vitamin F, Cataplex F, transfers calcium from the blood into the tissues, right there. That's the pearl of pearls. Vitamin D takes it from the gut, puts calcium into the bloodstream. So if you get too much D, it locks up the calcium in the blood, and you can't go in and can't go into the tissues, and you're in a bad way. By the way, in the summer, that's sunstroke. You're out in the sun too much, you get too much D, your calcium goes down, is held into the blood too long, supply, and can't get into the tissues. The tissues run out, you get weak, and your perspiration is shut off, and you won't live very long if you don't get into the shade. Vitamin F reverses that trend, acts as an antidote for the D. So this is why I love cod liver oil. I love food substances that have it all. Cod liver oil has D, has F, has A. You should never take D without A, and you should never take A without D. By diffusing the calcium again into the tissues. The word, I guess, didn't get translated. Moves it along where it's supposed to go. That's the function. If you use, oh, here it is, he says it. If you use natural Colorado cod liver oil, you'll get the two vitamins together and you'll never know they existed. Yes, food is the answer. But when you take them apart and then take the synthetic D alone, then you're in trouble. Synthetic D, vitamin D, has killed thousands of youngsters because it caused calcification of the kidneys. It can cause cataracts, hardening of the arteries. You don't want calcium hanging around in your blood. It's not where it's supposed to be. That is the means, that is the mechanism by which it gets into your tissues with that F deficiency. Now, this is a recent article, just 2018. Now, here's, remember, arachidonic acid is the purest form of vitamin F. The idea that arachidonic acid is has a critical role in human health and severe disease is slowly gaining ground. Two important aspects of arachidonic acid that are now rather well established, well, I don't know who else knows this but us, include its selective tumor recidal action. How do you say that word?
Tumoricidal.
Yeah.
Tumoricidal.
Yeah. So that right there, there's your pearl. That's why I put this in. Oh, you have tumors growing in your body? You have cancer? You have fibrotic tissue, breast, uterus, prostate, fibrotic tissue. Do you have lumps in your head and neck that have turned fibrotic from your lymph nodes, swollen lymph nodes? Here it is, everyone. This is the one of the pearl of pearls. It breaks down these tumors. That's what they're saying. This is what this study says. And potential antimicrobial properties against a variety of infections. Now, why? Well, we already just explained that. Because it is diffusing calcium into those tissues. Then calcium can go to work. So, calcium lactate, Cataplex F. You'll have the dosage. You have the dosages in the in the protocol. And here is Cataplex C, not ascorbic acid. You've heard me say this before many times, but I wanted to get this on the recording. If you want to learn about vitamin C, you've got to read Judith. Get her book from Saline River Press. This will be what, if there's certain books that I love, and this is in my top 5. As many accounts, when I was a rep, I had 1,000 accounts. As many as I could afford got this book as a gift from me. Because unless you read and understand this book, because she is the clearest person that I know of, other than Mark Anderson, John Courtney, that understood these work and put it into words. And here it is. Ascorbic acid is not vitamin C. It's the antioxidant. It's the protector of the vitamin C. So I wanted to read this out of Judith's book. I would love to read this whole book to you, but years of research have demonstrated that when any vitamin, moiety means parts, okay, a part of or a portion of, is separated from its naturally occurring collective, cooperative complex, including trace mineral activators. I didn't remember that. The components of vitamin C, all occurring in nature, activate trace minerals. And you have people that are mineral deficient. I don't know why, Joe, I don't know why. I can't get them to absorb these minerals because they don't have the activators. If you don't have the activators, the trace minerals, you urinate them out or poop them out. And reduce to crystalline purity. In other words, they take one of these portions and they chemically duplicate it. No good. The vitamin activity has been lost. Ascorbic acid is naturally present in the vitamin C complex, but it serves as the protector, the antioxidant, preventing immediate oxidation or deterioration. Of the functional parts of the complex, vitamin C complex, as is found in plants and animals, whole natural foods physiologically contain rutin, vitamin P, that's your Cyruta Plus and Cyruta, the bioflavonoid complex. Now, what are the bioflavonoids? I remember John Courtney making me memorize these. I've never forgotten. Rutin is a bioflavonoid, hesperidin, and quercetin. There are your bioflavonoids. And K, the K factor and the J factor, tyrosinase, organic copper. John Courtney told me once that, Joe, instead of, when doctors tell you that ascorbic acid is vitamin C, don't object too much, but teach them that really, if you wanted to call vitamin C something, you call it tyrosinase. That's the main component. And you know that I've taught this. Without tyrosinase, you cannot activate the amino acid tyrosine. And without tyrosine, you can't make adrenal hormone, thyroid hormone, or pituitary hormone. Vitamin C is much more significant than what we're talking about with colds and flu. And components not yet identified. Oh, synergistic factors, as well as ascorbic acid and ascorbigen. Ascorbic acid, I'm not going to read all of this, but what I did want to read is, okay, yes. Vitamin C complex plays a major role in the formation and plasticity of collagen, a protein that forms the basis for connective tissue, the most abundant tissue in the body. What ages what ages primarily in our bodies, in the human body? Connective tissue. Older people need this, even more so than younger people. And endothelial cells, tissue, cells that line the blood and lymphatic vessels, the heart, the various other cavities. It aids in weaving cells more tightly together. So it is imperative to wound healing and tensile strength of tissues as the skin. White blood cells, leukocytes, major players of, this is related to our topic now, in immune system functions, carry more vitamin C than any other cell in the body. Let me read this again. Here's your ammunition. You're bringing the army, all right, with the calcium and the F. Now, the army without bullets. White blood cells, leukocytes, major players in immune system functions, carry more vitamin C than any other cell in the body. This nutrient is needed for oxygen utilization, endocrine function, adrenal, thyroid, I told you, added pituitary, bones, teeth, gums, and she goes on. So I wanted to go back to a quote in my newsletter, which I did put in my book somewhere. I just don't know where it is. Hold on. Here it is. You can't read this and I can't expand it, but I'm going to read it to you. Here's related to this vitamin C as far as being the bullets. We know that glucose and vitamin C have similar chemical structures. So what happens when the sugar levels go up? They compete with one another upon entering the cells. And the thing that mediates the entry of glucose into the cell is the same thing that mediates the entry of vitamin C into the cells. If there is more glucose around, there is going to be less vitamin C allowed into the cell. That's a truth that you need to teach your clients, your family, and know yourself. It doesn't take much blood sugar value of 120 reduces the phagocytic index by 75%. So when you eat sugar, think of your immune system slowing to a crawl. One more. In adults, cell-mediated immunity is significantly depressed after sugar ingestion, 75%. 100-gram portion of sugar, that's a Coke, can significantly reduce the capacity of white blood cells to engulf bacteria. Maximum immune suppression occurs 1 to 2 hours after ingestion and remains suppressed for up to 5 hours. There's a whole working day. People that come to work, factories, they start their day with a Coke all day, being around others, being in that environment. They don't have a chance. All day, their immune system is suppressed to 75%. In other words, drinking a soft drink or eating candy bar can practically knock out your immune system for up to, now remember, it starts 1 or 2 hours after ingestion and lasts 5. So that's 7 hours, at least. It's probably more. And what do people do? Well, they don't just have something in the morning that knocks them out. They're eating sugar all day. Coffee and muffin for breakfast. A Coke with lunch. Now hopefully that's not the case. But we have to, all of us, and this is my mission, and I hope you share that mission with me. We have to teach people this information. So copy that page in the book of Judith's. And one other thing that Judith said from her research, here's her quote: "If we exclude straightforward famine, where people are literally starving to death, of course they are, before our eyes over a lifetime. Scurvy, vitamin C deficiency, not ascorbic acid, does not cure scurvy, won't touch it, is probably the nutritional deficiency disease that has caused most suffering in recorded history." So, how am I doing for time here? I got a lot to share with you. Okay. All right. And as we look at colds and flus and viruses, let us remember these quotes from these masters, because they knew how critical understanding these things are. Remember, the pathogen is nothing. The terrain is everything. If you have too much sugar in your blood, no vitamin C, no bullets. You've got an army that cannot get rid of anything. Here's Dr. Lee. When people have their resistance lowered by malnutrition, viruses can come in and get strong. Here's another PhD from Health Sciences Center in Texas. Perhaps virus evolution does depend on what we eat and do not eat. Very true. Now, the other product, when we look at calcium, F, and then C, we want to look also at Immuplex. And this, what John Courtney says, this immune alliance. The human body does not have a single immune system, as it is better described as an immune alliance among various systems and organs, which when coordinated by the brain, there's a pearl. Remember, I've said to you, when we look at that work to rest ratio in the HSR, if that is off, too slow or too fast, that brain body coordination is off. The immune system is off. So I never mention that. I don't teach it, but it is a huge part. This immune alliance is coordinated by the brain. What part of the brain? The pineal, the hypothalamus, and the pituitary primarily. That part of the brain. There may be others. I've never looked into that. So, it is better described as an immune alliance among various organs when coordinated by the brain, give an immune response to the presence of disease-associated factors, such as certain bacteria and viruses. The immune alliance is composed of the thymus, the spleen, which Lee considered and wrote had endocrine function, releases hormones, lymph system, huge, the sewer system of the body, for antibodies, long bones, skeletal, marrow, and blood. Now there's Monica's gift to us, teaching us how to make meat stock, how to make bone broth. Get her book. Make this with barley water. Make these things part of your life, part of your family's life, part of your client's life. All these PowerPoints are available to you. I'm not charging. Teach this. Learn PowerPoint or get someone in your office or a friend that can help you do it. Teach classes. Put this on your website. Digestive system, hydrochloric acid, let's see. Oh, the stomach. Because remember, all viruses and bacteria are alkaline in nature. Now, I did write this down, pretty sure. Oh, maybe I didn't. Oh, you know what? I'm looking at the wrong page. That's why I don't have that. Oh, here it is. Yeah, here it is. But thanks for looking that up earlier, Susan, Sue. The pH test, that's one thing you can do, and that's on my appendix on page 393 and 394. The barley water, as Sue said earlier, is 398. The virus envelope and the pH that will tell you, and bacteria will teach, is on page 403. Write those down and look them up after. This is your homework to do after you get you have, a couple weeks here till my next lecture. So the stomach, hydrochloric acid, if a virus gets into your stomach or a bacteria and you have enough hydrochloric acid or Calamo, Zypan, that's why I've got Zypan in one of these protocols, it's destroyed. It doesn't even get into your bloodstream, everyone. It's gone before it enters the sacred part of your body, the sacred parts. To destroy, and HCl can destroy ingested parasites. And there's our friendly bacteria, this whole, which will be my next lecture in 2 weeks. Destroy pathogenic microbes and manufacture B12 and liver for detoxification and enzyme production. Therefore, what is referred to as the immune system cannot be enhanced without enhancing the overall health of the body in complete resistance to disease. Thank you, John. Beautiful. And here it is. This is all part. So medical science, we'll take out the tonsils. We'll take out the appendix. Sometimes they take out the spleen. Thymus doesn't work. We don't know anything much about bone marrow, or eating bone broth or eating bone marrow. And so, but we do. This is our work. Now, those 4 products primarily. And of course, we can think of other things. We can think, as he said, the stomach and the GI tract that is not on this particular graph. We can think of probiotics. We can think of that immune biome factor, and which we'll talk about in a couple of weeks. And standard, thank God for Mark Anderson. Once again, Mark helped them develop this packet. Now, there's a vegetarian packet, but the vegetarian packet does not have calcium. It might have some C. It does not have vitamin F that I know of. So you'll have to decide which one. But the immune packet is calcium lactate, Cataplex F, Cataplex C, and Immuplex. Now, these packets aren't enough if somebody is sick. You'd have to take a packet every 2 hours, which you could do. If you're going on a trip, which you shouldn't, no one should be traveling, in my opinion, right now anyway. Or people that say, I don't want to, yeah, I'll take a packet, I'll throw it in my purse, I'll put it in my pocket. Okay, get something into them. These are there for them. Just came out. So I said in the beginning of this that we wanted to look at that most of my algorithms honor that triad. And here it is, even for viruses: calcium, C, F, Immuplex. But then I add, here is the lactic acid yeast and the Zypan that John was referring to, as far as before these viruses, these bacteria even enter into our temples. They're gone, they're taken out. So I'm going to address a couple of these because I've already discussed the others. But again, I wanted to underline calcium once again. Here it is. herpes simplex virus. Triggers activation of calcium signaling pathways. After exposure of cells of herpes simplex virus were examined, exposure to virus results in a rapid and transient increase in ionizable calcium, that's Ca2. So if there was enough in the bloodstream of that calcium, it triggered the immune response. That's all this is saying. These are in the studies. Now, I also put in here, which I love this, that Lynn wrote. And you have a, and now Lynn wrote this when she worked with Superman at the Daily Planet in Colorado. You didn't know Superman actually lives in Colorado. And Lynn worked for him at the Daily Planet. Of course, I'm just kidding. But Lynn, when she worked in Telluride and still has an office there, used to write articles for the local paper. And this is what she put in. I'm not going to read all of this, but I wanted to read this one paragraph because it relates to my explanation of what is going on now, what is going on right now. Let me just mute everyone out here. Good to have you on. If you came on late, don't worry. This is being recorded. Malnutrition, bacteria, viruses, and parasites thrive on weakened tissue. The Spanish flu epidemic of 1918 that killed 40 million people globally within 9 months. So we've lost in the world, what is it, right around 1 million? This virus killed 40 million in the same length of time. Was ultimately found to be due to an immune deficiency syndrome. This syndrome was caused by the lack of fresh foods available to the world's population. The world had its attention, transport, and workers focus on the needs of World War I. By the way, the Spanish flu ended. They had to end the war. They had to stop killing each other. And I guess you could say it was a secondary blessing, even though it killed so many people, that ended the war and the mutilation, the insanity of men killing each other. And away from fresh meat, fruit, vegetable production. They all went away. The crops lay dying and unused. Imagine. The very thing they were trying to prevent, they created. They walked away from the answer to their plague. And that's why I say to you, this plague that we're in is not the virus. It's the inability for us to work with our own bodies to keep this virus away and get rid of it if we have it. Processed and preserved foods became the replacement. This was the beginning, and I'm just writing that first chapter in my cancer book. And I call it the millennium of chemicals. The chemical millennium began, as Lynn is saying. In fact, reading this, I wrote half the first chapter of my book. Thank you, Lynn. You sparked it. And this led to World War II, more slaughter. After 4 years of the vitamin and mineral malnutrition that this caused, people became breeding grounds for virulent pathogens. Yes, thanks, Lynn. Amazing. So you can print this out. This is for you. She wrote all of this up, naming the calcium, the C, the different forms of C, the C in chondroplex, imuplex, even echinacea seed, which when she wrote this, that product didn't exist. Or your vitamin F. The reason we like to use Cataplex F tablets is because it has that a third of it is that arachidonic acid they talked about. It's pre-digested. If people are taking these oils and they can't convert those oils into these fatty acids, and everything breaks down into arachidonic acid, by the way, all of these. If the body can't convert those, it can't move the calcium. It can't ionize the ionizable calcium. It can't get that into the tissue. So this is why we love the Cataplex F tablets, or a lot of you now use Super EFF for yourself and your clients. Good. But that conversion is all the omega-3s, all the omega-6s, all the omega-9s do no good unless they can be broken down into arachidonic acid in the liver. Whose liver is healthy? And so you have this great, simple writing by Lynn Mayer, who used to work for Superman. So this she took from some of my teachings and Mark's, and she also gave you this. So this you have available too. And I was going to read this, but I'm running out of time. I've done my hour, but you should read this through. And I don't know, Lynn, do you know if you're still on? Did Mark write this? This is beautifully written. It has to be written by Mark. It's really great. But you should read this through. It's a lot about what I've already discussed. But please take time and read this through. Do you know?
Joseph, I'm on, and I think that was put together by John Brady, if I'm remembering right. It was done on IFNH.
Oh, okay. All right. Great.
Yeah, I
Who's
believe.
passed away. Yeah, bless his heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. So bless his eternal being. Yeah. So this is really well written. You should read this through. And that's something, again, you could copy, expand it like I did here, or my assistant Ellen expanded this so I could read it, but I'm running out of time because there's other things I want to say here before I close. I want to talk about cleanliness. You've heard the old saying, cleanliness is next to godliness. And it's so true. And it's more true than ever right now, now that we're inside and now that we're all isolated. A lot of us, maybe we're not, washing our entire bodies every day because we're not going out, but you should. You should. And whether you believe in masks, whether you believe in cleanliness or not, all of the ancient cultures, all of them, emphasize cleanliness because we build up bacteria. We carry viruses on our skin. And this is one of the original thoughts about the COVID issue that we were touching. Now, maybe they're saying now it's not significant, but it's still a factor. We need to wash every day before we go to bed. Part of the reason why people don't sleep well, can't get to sleep, is they haven't cleansed their body. Take a shower, take a bath. I was thinking whether I'd tell you this story, but I'm going to tell it to you. When we were children growing up, we didn't have a shower. We had a sink and one of those old porcelain tubs. Some of you may remember them. Some of you might have them. And so there were no showers in our house growing up. But every night before bed, my mother would say, okay, time to go to bed. And we all, until I was in junior high school, and there, junior high school was 7th, 8th, and 9th, and high school was 10th, 11th, and 12th. Elementary was 1 through 6. 1 through 6, we went to bed every night, even in the summer, at 7:30, unless it was a special event. We didn't even have a car for part of the time growing up. My father didn't have enough money But every night before bed, my mother would say, okay, Joey, Bobby, Donna, time to go to bed. Make sure you wash your face, hands, bum, and feet. Some of you probably don't even know what the bum is unless you're English. So we had to cleanse ourselves every night before bed. If we didn't wash, we had to get up and wash. That was my mother. And so I want to emphasize that to you, that cleanliness habits right now are most important. And in my winter wellness, take a hot bath every night. Just dip in the tub. That's what we used to do because we didn't have a shower. We'd just jump in the tub and splash the water and soap around, and we were done. I had that down to a few seconds. But mainly, wash your feet. Most of the toxins, or a lot of toxins, are in your feet before. And this is why people have disturbed sleep. If you don't believe me, try it. Just if you don't wash anything else before you go to bed, wash your feet. You'll see. You sleep better. People like to shower in the morning. No, you should shower before bed. Now, this is the gospel according to Joseph. So now the main herbal product for colds, flu, but that could be and that's in the back of my book, my winter blends. You can use that winter blends for colds and flu and viruses. But Kerry Bone, in his brilliance, formulated this product. If you were to say, Joe, there's a lot of products. I got the health packets. Give me one herb. Here it is. And I want to show you why. St. John's wort. Now, we know this as a nerve restorative product, but it's also the #1 antiviral product on Earth. St. John's wort is broad spectrum properties against HIV and influenza, and antimicrobial properties against strep, staph, E. coli. Yes, even in the gut. Even stomach flu. St. John's wort, everyone. In vitro and vitro studies have demonstrated that hypericin constituents may possess antiviral properties. Well, not may. In vitro studies suggested that hypericin constituents have antiviral activity against cytomegalovirus, herpes, simplex, human immunodeficiency, virus type 1, influenza virus A, on and on, leukemia virus. I didn't know leukemia related to a virus till I read this again this morning. And mice found that the low dosages of hypericin prevented retrovirus-induced diseases. Studies indicated that hypericin, one of the active components of St. John, inhibits the capability of the offspring of certain viruses to replicate, everyone. You got the COVID-19? You want them to stop replicating? You load up on St. John's wort. Additionally, it was found that hypericin also appeared to directly inactivate. Oh, it shut the virus off? What does inactivate mean? Someone can explain it to me. Inactivate the replication process of certain viruses that previously had the capability of replicating. Wow, it does two things. It inhibits replication and shuts off the replication. So, virus studied include herpes, Epstein-Barr, mononucleosis. You look in there, my mononucleosis protocol, maybe we'll get to that someday, Epstein-Barr, influenza types A and B. There's your COVID. You must have this. This is crucial. Oh, shoot. Can't believe I did that. Hold on, everyone. Oh, will that open it back up? Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh. Can I open this back up? Let me see. What did I do wrong?
Hit download.
Just hit the back button.
Yeah, hit the back button over there. Yeah. Yeah, that didn't do it.
Higher up.
This one? No. No.
You can hit download anyway, and then it'll, and then you can pull it back up.
Apologies, everyone. I am not computer literate.
You're getting there.
With the grace of all of you, I am
Okay.
getting there. Thank
You're
you
able to
all.
do it. There you go.
All right, so I want to open this up. I do know how to do this, though. See how good I am?
Yay.
All right. So now you can take St. John's wort separately. I take both. I take Viranon, but I take St. John's wort before bed. It really helps me to get to bed and sleep. I mean, I'm out in 2 seconds. The other herb in there is licorice. Now you could say, licorice, Joe? Yes. Yeah. Licorice may prove an unlikely ally in the fight against sudden acute respiratory syndrome, SARS. An extract of the plant's root blocks SARS virus from growing inside cells. Wow. The study is part of an ongoing search for a treatment of SARS, the flu-like disease that claimed more than 750 lives since it emerged last year. This is an older in the province of China. Glycyrrhizin makes it difficult for the SARS virus to attach to and invade target cells. What? Yeah. It makes it difficult for those viruses to attach to normal cells. Wow. How does it do it? It's the blessing of nature, everyone. I don't care how they chemically explain it to me, how it works. I don't care. I want to know that it works. I want to be on this. We don't have many leads for effective drugs. They don't have leads to any effective drugs, as far as I'm concerned at this point. So this is very exciting. Glycerin, large amounts are needed. It's likely, but remember how, just like standard process concentrates foods, you know, Kerry Bone has studied this and how they concentrate the amount of that glycyrrhizin in this product, in licorice that they carry, is far more than other companies in my knowledge and awareness. Glycyrrhizin is the molecular responsible for licorice's peculiar flavor. It hampers the growth of other viruses, includes herpes, and helps restore liver function in patients with hepatitis C. What? Licorice for hepatitis C? There it is. Read this article through. So, and now I'm not going to do this again. How do I get back to do I just shut this down here? This one here? Monica? Just
Yes.
close that out?
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
shoot.
That's right. You have to go back. Go to the.
It's all right. I got it down now, at least how to get back. So. The last herb in Viranon is is it Viranon or Viranon? Is Thuya that I wanted to show. Now, one of the things that I didn't put in about Thuya was the American Indians used this herb when smallpox ravage their societies. They used it to prevent death. And it's just loading, everybody. Sorry, it's slow. Oh, let me just do this slideshow. Oh, man.
Joseph, hit the number 40 slide on the back over here on the left. Hit it twice. It should come up as the biggest. Just tap it twice with your thing. Tap it
Right
twice.
side or left side? I did.
I would go next to the
Oh, here it goes. Okay, I got it. Okay. Huh, it's not opening it. Oh, I wanted to read this to you. That's a bummer.
No, can you just take your cursor and go to the number 40 all the way on the left, go to the right of the bottle. So you're not on the links, just tap it twice to see if it'll come up as a full screen.
Doesn't do it.
You're
Okay,
tapping
well,
it
anyway,
twice.
you can open this up and read it. You know,
I might be able to open it up from here. Maybe not. Whoa, where did it go?
You can just take the link and put it into your browser.
Yep.
I have no idea what he just said, but it sounds good.
Just put your finger on there, hold on, control.
Yeah, you can copy that whole link,
Joseph,
Joseph.
just copy
Yeah,
and
copy
paste
the
that
whole
whole
link.
link into your,
What do I do with it now?
Copy the
well,
link.
you gotta
You
copy
the
it.
link?
I don't know what that means.
It's saying that if you hit control and then click on it, that it might come up.
Control.
Hit escape,
All right,
because now you're in the link. Okay, then now try control.
No, you know what? It might be my internet is slow. It's really sluggish this morning. But anyway,
Well, Joseph, I can grab the link and put it
Well,
on mine.
well, they'll have it. Yeah, they'll have it. But anyway, Thuya is great again for these viral infections, bacterial infections. So Kerry Bone, even though your representative will teach you this is mainly a antiviral herbal formulation, which it is also has antibacterial qualities. That's the point that I wanted to make. So how many of these a day? Well, let me see if I can go back now. Okay, so I would suggest that if you don't have any active viruses in your system, the Viranon, this was more heavily active, is 2 twice a day. That's a high dose. So even 1 twice a day prophylactically, you can write that in. So now, so it's been great to share this hour and a little bit with you. And I look forward to working with you all more and helping all of us to understand through our conversations and our teachings just the scope of what we have at our fingertips, what we can provide one another.
Joseph, will we get copies of these slides?
Yes, I will. Yep. I'm going to, I've created a YouTube, and then next week I'll give you all a link and you can get the recording and you can get the notes. Yep. So I've been working on that for a couple of weeks. I just had to get it all together. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Now, if you want the notes right away, everyone, just email me. I'll just send them to you this afternoon or tomorrow. So, so I'm happy to take some questions now, and yeah, and know that because next week, of course, is Thanksgiving, and blessings to you all. I'm grateful for you all in this network of friends and healers, And so, but I won't be on next Thursday. We'll take a little break and I'll be on 2 weeks from now. And I'm probably going to do gut dysbiosis. So I haven't fully decided that yet, but I'm thinking of that.
Joseph,
Yes,
I have a quick question.
sure.
And I asked this, kind of referenced it before, but not in this case. I have a patient who doesn't come around very often and doesn't really love supplements very much, but he has been taking the AC carbamide. He, like this next step, he's very close to dialysis, but he was actually born with defective kidneys. So it's a big deal as far as just from birth, but he's obesity, you know, and he has a lot of comorbidities and diabetes and just a lot of fluid and edema. What could I apply in this case to provide nourishment for his immune system, but knowing that he doesn't really like a lot of stuff, and also to be careful about how the kidneys, there's about 15% of one functioning right now. Otherwise, he's just about to go into dialysis need.
Well, in my book under the kidney failure, it's called the kidney failure protocol. I have used that in about 6 clients and they are no longer on dialysis.
Okay.
At least, you know, I don't keep up with my old clients and doctors I've helped over the years. So that protocol now, if you say, no, I just won't take a lot of supplements, Renafood would be the one. Now, if you look back into the endocrinologists, what would they say? Well, adrenal support, of course, add to the renal, right? That's what that endocrine gland does, is it adds something to the renals, to the kidneys. So Drenamin would be one that I would use.
Okay.
Because vitamin C, remember, you know, for that vasculature, now you could say, well, Cyruta Plus, which is true, but again, you can only use, if I've only got 1 or 2 products for this gentleman, you know, I want to get the C, the G, and the G will help that his weight and diabetes too, and Drenamin, Drenatrophin. So Drenamin, but number 1 is Renafood. You're not going to hurt him. That's protomorphogen in there. Go slow. Just give him, you know, 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon for a week. Go up to 4 and then to 6 a day, 3 and 3. He could do 9 a day. If he's a big man, he could do 12 a day. It won't hurt him and he will begin to see a difference. It's going to take a few weeks, and at least keep him where he is. And then the second product for him, you say, how much is he, what's his height and weight?
I'm sorry.
What's his height and weight?
Oh, he's about 5, let's see, maybe 5'9", and probably, gosh, 2 something.
Okay, well, that answers my question. So you need to give him at least 4 Drenamin twice a day on an empty stomach. Both of these on an empty stomach, because there's protomorphogen and Renafood. Lynn and I were just talking about that this morning. So now, if you go back to the endocrinologist, if you go back to the original teachers, they say this condition, if you go back to Dr. Harrower, this condition of kidney failure is actually a thyroid breakdown. It's a breakdown of the body's ability to metabolize, right? What do the kidneys do? They get rid of stuff. But if the metabolism is slow, the residue sits there in the kidneys and can create infection. They maybe other things that break them down, I'm sure. So the other piece of that, if you look in my book, is thytrophin and prolamine iodine for kidney failure. Yes. So those are your main 3 products if you want to add the iodine in for sure. Yeah. Okay.
Thank
Joseph,
you.
a quick question.
Yeah.
So this is Christopher Stockwell. I was 2 quick ones. Why do we take protomorphogens on an empty stomach? And 2, how long is the B4 factor active in the system?
Great.
Catalyst B,
Two
catalyst
good
four.
questions. Yeah. So I'll answer the second one first. B vitamins are primarily water soluble. Some of them are what was called in the early days alcohol soluble or fat soluble. So B vitamins, because they're primarily water soluble, do not stay in the system very long. The most they stay in your system is 72 hours. So if you take Cataplex B Core, say you take 2 twice a day, and you run graphs, I've done this. You run graphs, the first day it's great, clearing, normalizing, second day good, third day good, fourth day, you begin to see it break down again. Now, part of that is because people deplete those B vitamins, those water-soluble B vitamins with sugar, bleached white flour, not sleeping, alcohol is huge for B vitamin deficiency. In fact, alcoholism is a B vitamin deficiency syndrome. So, so to answer your question, 72 hours is the most, depending on their lifestyle. They, in my opinion, most should take B vitamins every day, even if you take 1 or 2 a day. That's all I take of the B Core, because I take G, I take Drenamin, you know, I take other products with B vitamins in it, but I take 2 B Core. It's sitting right here. It's less than 1 foot from me. And I come and sit at my computer, I take 2 B Core.
Eat
Now,
instead of peanuts.
what? What's that?
Instead of peanuts.
That's right. No, I don't eat peanuts. Yeah, that's right.
Joseph,
Yes.
may I please ask you a
Oh,
question?
well,
This
let
is
me just,
Barbara.
he had one other question, which is
Oh, okay.
important. Okay, yeah, and then just hold your thought for 1 second. So the reason protomorphogens need to be taken on an empty stomach is you don't want hydrochloric acid to be triggered to break them down and the body interpret those nuclear proteins as meat. You want the body to use the protomorphogens medicinally. They have to pass through the stomach and get into where they meet the antibody. And you know this principle, I think you do. The antibody is attacking the primary organ. So instead of going to, say, the lungs and attacking the lungs, it will meet that pneumotrophin. The antibodies will meet the pneumotrophin in the lymph vessels around the intestinal tract, the gulf.
Okay, so then should they be chewed or swallowed if we don't want to mix them with HCl?
You should definitely taste them, because then the body knows. If you study George Goodhart, he made chewing supplements famous, even though Lee talked about it, but Goodhart really taught this around the world, is you want the parotid to tag those nuclear proteins and say, okay, I know you're here and I know how you should be used. So that's why you should, I wouldn't say chew. Other teachers will say you got to chew them up. I find most people, you just have to taste them. If I break all the protomorphogens in half and then half again in my mouth, then I swallow them. As long as
Got
you
it.
get that salty taste in your mouth.
Got it.
But do
Thank
not take them with food. They will work, but they won't work as effectively. You diminish the clinical power and effectiveness, you know, at least 50% if you take them with food. So, okay, yeah, who is the next one on?
Barbara,
Yes.
Joseph, I just want to tell you, one of my patients with a type of chronic fatigue is using Cataplex B Core, and she says the transformation is amazing. She's
Yep.
riding her bicycle for the first time. I wanted to share that with everybody.
Excellent.
So,
Excellent.
Also, but my question is about a man who has had an enlarged prostate for many years,
Mhm.
heavy drinker for like 30 years. He's now
Mhm.
65. He lost a lot of weight. He it weighs 195 down from about 230 before in the
Good,
last
good.
couple of years. But the catalyst was that he got prostate cancer 2 years ago,
Oh, boy.
and he had cryosurgery. It was one of those borderline cases, you know, whether you need to treat it aggressively or not. He did
Oh,
cryosurgery.
that's an old surgery. I never heard of that happening. Oh, good. I'm glad they did
Oh
that.
no, it's a very cutting edge here in New York City.
Oh,
And,
great.
his PSA has been 0, and no, so they're following him medically, and they think he's good. And but I just wanted to know what you would do for this man, you know, for prevention of recurrence of cancer. And also, you know, his prostate is still enlarged, but it's much better now that he's not drinking and that he's eating well.
Good. Well, good for him. Blessings to him. That's great. That's a lot for a man to do that. It's much easier for women to make that sacrifice and live right. That's great. I applaud that, and I'm happy for him. So as far as cancer, my 3 things, and I can send you my journey through cancer, and I'll send you the audio. I just did an hour on my cancer journey. 3 things. His body does not make enough trypsin and chymotrypsin to break abnormal cells down. Number 1, most important. So he's got to get the panimmune enzymes. Let me just mute everyone out, and then you come back in. Okay. So he's got to get the panimmune enzymes and take them the rest of his life. Number 2, no sugar, which it sounds like he's doing, especially being a diabetic. He's lost weight. No grains, no starches, no fruit, no heavy carbs. So paleo diet. Number 3, he's got to get the apricot kernels. It's in my cancer journey. The company that I use, Get Organic ones. That is Laetrile. That is natural cyanide that doesn't hurt any other cells but cancer cells. And the explanation again is in my notes. So, and he's got to take, you know, right now I take 10 a day as a maintenance. They taste like a bitter almond, but they will go and scavenger and kill those cells that are colonizing. So back in that area. Now, so those are the 3 things he's got to do. Okay. Now, as far as what's that?
How much of the panimmune enzyme?
Well, if he's in remission, then
Yes.
he could take 6 a day at night on an empty stomach. They're very expensive. I don't care. Sell the second car. If you want to live so you can drive the first car, sell the second car. So, and use that money to love yourself and bless yourself. So, and where to buy those at Health Best Orders is all in my information that I'll send to you. And
Okay.
then as far as products, this has now become an autoimmune condition. Now, because those necrotic prostate cells, those dead cells, those dead proteins have leaked into the bloodstream. The body says, I can't make anything out of this. So I want you out of here. Be gone from me. You're cast out. So the immune system creates antibodies and takes those, what they perceive, the body perceives as antigens, and gets rid of them. Then it says, cleans up the blood. Then it says, who started this? Now you're going to be out of here. So this is where he needs to be on prostate PMG rest of his life. And, you know, I mean, if it were me, I'd do 3 twice a day. But even if he did 2 twice a day, 1 twice a day probably is not going to be enough for his size. And the second most important, that because now if these aren't cancer cells, he's got a lot of swelling in there. Now this is fibrotic tissue. This is not normal. They're inflamed cells. So what do you call them? It's fibrosis. Vitamin F. Dr. Lee and John Courtney and John made sure that he did not leave this world till I knew that what breaks down fibrotic tissue is vitamin F. Now, he probably needs the calcium with it. So, very simple protocol. Prostate PMG, Cataplex F tablets, and I would give him probably 4 twice a day. You make sure his blood calcium stays up. So use, the calcium cuff test or the Trousseau test. Make sure he's got enough calcium. If he's getting a lot of cramps upon exertion or leg cramps at night, he needs calcium lactate too. But that's not 100% mandatory. The other thing that he could get through his diet, a handful of pumpkin seeds a day, not heated, of course, is zinc. So zinc chelate would be good for him. And that's about it that he needs. Now, for every year that he's been working with this, you've got to give the nutrition, especially with cancer, not 3 months, but 6 months. So pretty much he's going to get on these products and stay on them for the rest of his life. Pretty much. This would be a priority for him, what I just taught you.
And how much calcium lactate do you think he should take?
Well, the average woman, cycling woman, uses 1,300 milligrams. So what would you say for a man? We don't need as much, maybe 800. And if he has a good diet of calcium, rich green vegetables, raw milk, which you can get in New York City. We had a co-op, we used to get it from out of Pennsylvania, out of the Pennsylvania Dutch community. We used to get it and they'd haul it into New York City. I don't know where he is, but we used to have a co-op. So either raw dairy or green leafy vegetables, or have him Google highest sources of calcium in food. So, different kinds of fish. What are the little fish that people eat with the bones?
Sardines.
Sardines. Yeah, sardines is good. So, he can look that up and enjoy getting that calcium into him. Sardines taste great. So if he likes that, if you don't like sardines, then forget about it. As they say in New York City, forget about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you want, email me at jantel52@aol.com and just say prostate lecture and
Your cancer journey.
and journey. Just put journey and then
Thank you so much, Joseph.
You're welcome.
Have a good Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Blessings to you too.
Joseph,
Yes.
I've seen a lot of prostate cancer and I'm still dealing with a lot of guys with it. And exactly what you said, when the prostate is enlarged, that's due to a calcium deficiency. So that
Yeah.
tells you right there, he needs calcium lactate plus F.
Yeah. Most men, you're right. And remember what we just spent the last hour and a half on. If you don't have calcium, you can't kill cancer. I'm telling you, you can't activate those white blood cells. I'm telling you. People, underestimate the power of calcium, ionizable calcium. But I'll tell you, with cancer, if you look at my cancer protocol, it's the #1 product. It's the #1 product. So anyway, but I guess we've gone well over our time. When did we start? 11, 12?
Joseph, one more question.
Sure, go ahead.
And I know that you've mentioned this term a lot and I just take it as is, but then I start to think, well, how would I explain this to my patients? When you say pre-digested for the super EFF, how do you explain it? I know this is me, but I'd like to do it scientifically. Like, does it mean that some sort of enzyme took it and then it changed it to where it's easily digestible? Is that what you mean when you say pre-digested?
Well, that might be what you just said, the enzymatic. Yeah, but pre-digested means that we take it, we extract it. If you look at Super EFF, you'll see that the source is liver fat. We just extract it already out of the liver, as is. In fact, let me just look it up real quick. What the label, and that's all you have to say is the cow already converted it. It already digested it. We're just taking it out and eating it that way. So what am I looking up?
So when you say Cataplex F, what form is that then?
That's omega, that's arachidonic acid, omega-3 and omega-6. So that has three different ranges of fatty acids. So, okay. What am I
Okay.
looking up here? Oh, Super EFF, right?
Right.
Hold on one second. I like to do this because I do this all the time, but I like to do it with you all on the phone. Hold on one second. Oh, there's a lot of S products here.
This is great, and thank you for taking all this time today.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah. Super SU. Huh. Oh, it's got all these. Where is Super EFF? Huh. I think they still make it, don't they? What page is it on?
Yes.
Oh, here it is. It's hidden down at the bottom. Okay, so let me just look at the label. And the label says, it's got carbamide, Spanish moss, bovine liver fat extract, bovine liver, and organic flaxseed oil. So that bovine liver fat is pure arachidonic acid. So, okay. So that's the best way, instead of, if for your clients, to simplify it. You just say Standard Process has had this product, has had this formulation since 1949. And they have found it to be excellent for people that have a hard time converting fats into fatty acids. So, and you could always Google, you know, fats into fatty acids, and it'll have an article. It'll pop up 20 articles. Take the one that you feel like your clients can understand most, because people don't know when you say conversion, what the hell does that mean? I don't know. So fats to fatty acids, if you look that up, make a copy of that page or send them the email, and it will explain it to them, and it will explain it to you too.
And then and of course the heart sound recorder, aortic high second sound, would be an appropriate explanation as to how I would know, or else if they have digestive complaints. Correct? As far as how
Well, no, it would be the second sound missing would be how you would know. And you're giving them Cataplex F tablets, or you're giving them another oil, and the F in the second sound is not returning. So then you know that you're not getting that calcium into that tissue.
Okay, you wouldn't look at, okay, I see what you're saying. So you're,
Yeah.
I was thinking about how you would know if someone needed the Super EFF. I'm thinking because they're having issues with their digestive system in the aortic, but you're turning it into, I get it, the calcium part. Okay.
They're
Yeah,
also liver compromised.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
see both. I get it. Okay.
People that are deficient in fatty acids, especially the super fatty acids, where you need to go to Super EFF, is they're not thriving. They say, my skin is dry and I've tried everything. I take cod liver oil and I take flaxseed oil, but they're not converting it. This is why you need the conversion products as far as oils. Already converted, a third of it is Cataplex F tablets. 100% of it is Super EFF. And black currant seed oil is a great product because it also has a way that it's partially converted as well. So and I've never actually looked that up, but Dr. Keppel teaches it. And I've heard it from other sources about black currency oil. Works really well.
And remind me when you would suggest that particular one.
Dry skin, cracked
black skin.
cracked lips. Yep.
Okay. And you would say how many a day?
This is the winter. You know, the last few days I can already tell. And, you know, usually, you know, I walk by everywhere in my house and I have supplements. So usually I take 6 F tablets when I walk by and when I get my tea in the morning or after I've made my tea. But then at night, I have black currency oil right by where I watch TV. I have about 9 products there and I haven't been taking it. Some nights I do, and my skin is drying out. So I'll just get back on that and my skin will come back. It won't take long.
And it's about 2 and 2 a day, or do you think more?
Oh, yeah, that's good. I take 6 at once. You're talking to Joseph now. I don't do small
right.
doses. If I open a bottle, I take 6. So it's just, I mean, it's, you know, it's just so easy to take 6. Then, you know, you're good to go, you know, at least
Yes.
for a few days, you know, so.
Thank you, Joseph.
Yeah, and that's the other doctor was asking me, Dr. Stockwell, about the Cataplex B course. Sometimes I'll take 3. Whatever hits my hand, I take them. I open the bottle, I hit in my hand. If like 3 come out, I don't put 1 back in the bottle. I take it. So that's how Dr. Versendahl used to take supplements. He'd hit the bottle in his hand, whatever came out in his mouth. I think Mark does that too. Anyway, well, great to
Joseph,
be with you
another-
all. Yes, go ahead.
One quick thing.
Yeah.
On page 138, the colds and the flu, you also have, I always call it Antronix, and we didn't talk about that. Is that because of liver and histamine?
Yes,
the
that's
fourth
right.
thing that's on the Antronix up top.
Yes, that's why it's one of the 4. I wanted to today get on the recording, just the basics.
Okay.
But but no, I want to tell you, and you're right. When you start to come down, you see, you say, oh, I think I got a scratchy throat, or you say, oh, my sinuses, oh, I can feel them. I can feel them starting to fill up, or I can feel them like I'm starting to have to blow my nose. That is a histamine reaction. If you can catch it right at the beginning, and Antronix is the greatest antihistamine on this planet, natural antihistamine. Usually, when you start to come down with something, you've had too much sugar or a heavy meal, or you've stayed up too late, you've gotten upset, and the body then has lowered its immune ability to provide the full strength, and your liver has closed up, because the portal vein in the liver under stress will close up because it's trying to protect itself. The liver is smart because it says, no matter what happens, it's like these blessed healthcare workers that are exhausted in some states around this country, exhausted. They can't stay home. The liver can't stay home and say, all right, yeah, just. The liver has to work. So what it does is it conserves. You know, it says, well, I'm going to cut off some of this blood supply because, you know, there are certain responsibilities have to be done if this body's going to continue to function and live. So Antronix, but then of course, the liver always overdoes it, which the body tends to do with most things. But if you're going to use Antronix, having said all that, make sure you use Zypan, Calamo, vinegar, honey water, something. Okay. So, all right. And that's why it's in here. Dr. Lee said the beginning of a cold is a histamine reaction. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Joseph.
Thank you, Joseph.
And
Okay.
calcium is just amazing, way underutilized.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, have a blessed few days, weekend, and I'll be with you next Tuesday, and I'll look forward to that. Send me your graphs.
One more
Yes.
question.
Sure.
Is Antranex appropriate for this patient I'm talking about with almost going to dialysis, or is that too much for him to take, or would it help on
Oh,
burden?
well, listen, Tanya, he needs a lot. Yes, absolutely. Because if you remove the burden, the way to remove the burden off the kidneys is to remove the burden off the liver. And that's what Antranex does.
Perfect.
Yep, that's one of the products by my chair where I watch TV. I take Antranex every night, or at least 3 nights a week. I just take 6 before I go to bed, especially if my brothers come over, and we've had, dessert, or, we eat a heavy meal, pasta that I don't eat much, or, Chinese food or pizza, that type of thing. Always after my digestive products, an hour later, if I'm still there watching TV, 6 Antranex, you better believe it. Take the load off, right?
Perfect. Thank
Yep.
you.
Okay, blessings to you all, and I'll be with you next Tuesday.
Thank you, Joseph.
Take care.
Thank you, Joseph.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Joseph.